Bosh, we're back, Squeeze the Neck podcast, and today I think we are Redhill. Am I in the right place for Redhill? Yes. I'm going to let you pronounce your name because I've butchered enough names on here recently with my new mate, Aaron.
Duvigneau.
My mate, thanks for doing this, aka MysterE-nigma.
MysterE-nigma.
I got that bit right, didn't I?
Yeah, you got that right.
So thanks for having us here, mate.
Right.
I said to you before, and you've got a fight coming up, and you said no, and you'll explain that as we go. So before we jump into anything else, mate, talk about who you are and tell us what you do.
Right, so obviously, MysterE-nigma, Aaron. So I've been doing this for quite a while now. In total, well, we go all the way back. It's about 15 years back from Taekwondo days, and then after Taekwondo days, I got my black belt, went to do MMA, but then kind of fell in love more with the striking part, with the Muay Thai and K1 part, and then for the last 7 odd years now I've been competing, so, and that's here we are today.
And how old are you now, mate?
Turned 31 on Monday.
Oh, you're young, Jesus Christ, he's going to give me a proper old age, 31. You got loads
age
of time.
is just a number, though.
That's what I'm going with, because it's funny, when this comes on, I turn 21, I don't know what it is, I'm just 21.
I think we're all mentally 21 though, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, nearly, I'm not quite there yet, I don't think mentally, but we'll come to that another time. But mate, before we get into anything else, tell us, like, from Taekwondo, what was your kid in Taekwondo?
What was I?
A kid doing Taekwondo.
Oh, no, so I started around 14, 15. What's quite funny, when I started at that age, I thought I was too old. So,
it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, so I did karate when I was about 7, and same thing when I was 7. I was like, oh, all the best fighters started like 4 years old and stuff. I've done it too late.
That's mad, isn't it?
Done that for about 2 years. Then I moved, and then when I got 14, 15, again, I was like, oh, you know, you need to be young and stuff. You know, everyone always gives you this sort of BS of, if you want to get into fighting, you have to do it very young. Like, you can't, your body's not going to cope and stuff and all this sort of thing, you know. Like, best thing to do is just try it, you know.
You're going to get older anyway.
You're going to get old, exactly, man.
And I think what's interesting, I've had this conversation on here before with people, I think as long as you've done something when you're younger, you can get into it a bit later. You can't come off the sofa at 25 and start doing things if you've
that's
never
a
done
different
it.
story.
But if you've done something athletic, you've been an athlete in some capacity, I think you're good, man. I think as long as you start, you know, don't give me you've got to be tough. Obviously, you've got to be tough, otherwise you wouldn't be in fighting anyway, innit? Do you know what I'm saying? But like, if you go through the ranks of it at your own pace, you're going to get there, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? I think so. There's this geezer, Paul Reed. I don't know if you've seen him. I think his name's Paul Reed.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Reed, he's an MMA guy, but he talks openly about you're never too old and like how he started MMA fights at 35. And at 35 to 50, he was still fighting. And he ended up having, I don't know exactly, Paul, you comment below if I'm wrong, mate, but it's something like 40 professional fights. Do you know what I mean? Like, he really did it properly. He's had all kinds of mad injuries. I'm trying to get him on it, so Paul, if this reaches you, mate, be my pal, eh?
That's good. You need to, like, I have a friend called Jay Theory who I train with, and he started at 20. I believe he'd done boxing, a bit of boxing before, like you said, had previous experience. But he started MMA at 28, and he just retired last year. I think he's 36 now.
Okay.
He's just opened up his own gym now. But where if he'd listen to most people and just be like, oh yeah, I can't do this and that because of my age, he went for it. He'd done a few boxing fights again. I think he's done everything but K1. but yeah.
At the same time, you ain't got to have the perfect record and retire undefeated and be the greatest that's ever done it to have a proper fight career and enjoy it, right? Because at the end of the day, how many people get into it and go, oh, this ain't for me? So if it is for you, fuck it, let's go, huh? Let's do this. Do you know what I mean? But like, when you said about MMA, you wanted to do MMA. Are them days gone or what?
Do you know what I've said in my life? Well, before I even started with this, I would happily die if I've ever had a boxing, K1 / Muay Thai fight / MMA fight. The only thing I haven't crossed over is the MMA fight.
Okay.
I've done boxing, I've done kickboxing, Muay Thai, but I've never done MMA. And in my head, there's always going to be that part of me, because when I grew up, obviously my old man, bless his soul now, grew up with boxing and all that sort of stuff, but obviously I grew up with the sort of MMA, UFC sort of scene when I was younger, so that was always more my, obviously I did like boxing, but not as much as I'd love the UFC growing up, so I'm always going to have that soft touch for it, and that's what got me into all this, because I was doing my Taekwondo, watching UFC at the same time, and I thought, I really want to get involved, want to like do full contact now and stuff like that.
Right.
Went to an MMA gym, literally, it used to be around the corner here, Extreme Fighters, a couple years back. That's actually where I met Dave. My old coach, Steve Elliott, was down there, so I thought, let's do MMA, and then I kind of just naturally fell in love with the striking classes, because, again, coming from a striking background, and then before you know it, I kind of just learned more of it. It was more fun, I had the experience there already, and obviously Jiu Jitsu is a whole different ball game, as everyone knows. I had a lot of beginner's luck. I'm really good at this naturally, and then I started getting humbled and realised the whole Whole different ball game.
But that's how it goes. I feel like I had a similar. I was a striker before I ever grappled, and you get that initial sort of beginner that's come from something else sort of burst, don't you? But then you run into higher belts and you go, maybe I'm not as hot as I thought I was. But you've got a striker's build, don't you? You've got like long limbs and like razor sharp elbows. Look, hold your arm out, put your fist down. Look at that.
I was just going to say, my torso, I probably have the same size torso as you. There's a kid in here, he's about 15. My torso is the same size as his, but my legs and arms are just double.
They call that built like Kermit the Frog, don't they?
Yeah, literally.
Long legs,
literally, I've had people who's 6'6", taller than me, and I've got just as long legs and just as long, no, in fact, longer legs and then just as long arms, but they've just got a longer body.
Yeah, they said that about Tyson Fury, don't they? Tyson Fury apparently has got like a little tiny, tiny, he's 6'9". I don't think he's like, but for his size, he's got relatively short torso and like built like a frog. That's where I got it from. Maybe not Kermit the Frog, probably not a great handle, is it? But we call it a frog build. But like, where did you start your boxing?
Spider build, actually.
Spider build.
Yeah,
there you go.
that's the one.
He said it better than me. There you go. But where did you do your boxing at, mate?
Boxing.
Yeah.
I do my boxing down here. So
did you fight out of here as a boxer?
This is where I fight out.
Oh, I got you.
21 cents, literally all over.
I know you fight here now, but is this where you did your boxing matches out?
Oh, so when I did, my little boxing, I had a little boxing there. No, I used to box at a gym which is around the corner called White Dogs.
Okay, White Dogs, that's a good name, isn't it?
Literally. So I was training there and at Extreme Fighters back in the old gym, and then Extreme Fighters closed down, and then I didn't have like a replacement K1 gym at the time, or MMA gym, so I was just thought, I'll make my boxing gym my actual primary gym at the time. So I did 2 fights down to Quest, Queensbury.
Okay.
It was very interesting because
Queensbury, I remember them. My pals used to fight on
Ross
there.
Minters,
Are they still about? Yeah.
They're
not right?
Ross,
I haven't heard of them.
Alan Foley.
But Queensbury, I haven't heard them for years and years. They was like was that Epsom racetrack?
Epsom racetrack.
Like that,
they still do it there. Or at
they still do it. Okay.
Or at Courtthorne, they switch around. Yeah. So I still go to their venues because again, I still talk to the boys down there. I still watch their fights. I still on Thursdays train with them.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Yeah, I do train with them every now and then. So, I got 2 fights with them. Unfortunately, I didn't get those wins in the 2 fights, which is good because I feel like if I'd won, I might have sidetracked the boxing because I feel like with boxing, the head was in it, but the heart wasn't.
Right.
This is more my love. Kick is my love, But obviously, everyone deep down, everyone likes boxing because it's more popular and stuff. So. When everyone's, oh my gosh, you're going into boxing now, that's good, you made a good change. Even my old man at the time was like, mate, you're smart now, you're going into boxing. Because he wasn't a fan of MMA and stuff, but the way he saw it was, they don't get paid as much, they're getting like elbowed, kneed and shit in the face, what's the point? At least boxing's a gentleman's sport, you get the money for it and that sort of thing. So when I did those 2 fights, he was just like, yeah, at least you're in the right direction now.
But it's funny that, isn't it? Because I feel like the older generation, they do sort of go like, MMA. Like, maybe not so much now, but back in the day, they certainly did. When I used to speak about it, like, if I spoke about boxing, people would sort of like grow to it, like, whatever. But if you speak about MMA, they'd look at you like, fucking, you know what I mean? Whatever. But where did you grow up? Did you grow up around here originally?
So, I like to say, I always say South London with people because I was born in Tooting.
Oh, my man. So was I. Top man. St George's Hospital?
St George's Hospital.
My guy. There you go.
Only the real ones. Yeah. So born in Tooting. Grew up in like Lee Lewisham. And then my nan was in Clapham. And my dad's mum, other nan, was in popular southeast London. So I was always back and forth Clapham, Poplar, Lee Lewisham, that area. Then I moved to Clapham full time when I was going to school in Purley. So Purley to Clapham was long. And then I moved to Purley for a bit, and then I'm based in Causden now for like last 15, 17 years.
But you're the right side of the river, which is all that matters on this podcast.
Yeah. So anywhere south of the river,
You're on the team, mate. You're part of the family. We get your T-shirt from here. But like, if you go from sort of that mindset of your boxing and you love kickboxing, was it just the choice of forget MMA now, I just want to be a kickboxer?
It just makes more sense. I've said this before. I had an interview with Joe Turner. It's like MMA and boxing, they've established their names and stuff. I feel like with kickboxing and Muay Thai, I say it's a growing sport, it's been going on for a long time, but I feel like you could sort of make more of a name for yourself in that sport than you can with the other sports. Because like, if you just turn up to MMA now, you are just another body. Like in our own sport, like we are our own people. Like when you talk K1 and stuff, you say all these names and stuff, like we all know each other. Right. We all, whereas with MMA and boxing, it's kind of hard. It's only like the top names and stuff people know about. Whereas with this sport, it's very unique. You could be a unique person, and I feel like we need like a sort of McGregor person in this sport, which will happen, I think, and then people will come to the sport, and then it will get the recognition it deserves, you know. So I feel like staying in this sport is probably better, because if I go into another sport, you're just another body, you know. You could be your own character in this sport.
Well, I tell you what's interesting about that as well, when you say about this, people that say they're kickboxers, typically they're actual fighters too, because we all know, we're not calling people out, but we all know people who go, yeah, I'm a boxer, I've done MMA. They've never fought. They've just gone in the gym a few times, hit the pads, or you know, they've done 2 Jiu Jitsu sessions and a fucking cardio kickboxing class, and they tell their mates they're an MMA fighter. I train UFC and all that nonsense, right? Whereas kickboxing seems to be, they don't do that. If you're a kickboxer, but I guess it's because it's probably a bit more niche, right? Like kickboxers are actual real kickboxers, isn't they? Do you know what I mean? Like
more humble.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
depends who
you speak
to. In comparison to boxers and MMA fighters, I had a conversation with someone the other day. When they go to boxing venues and fights, the vibe, the scene and stuff, there's always fights and stuff.
Always.
Yeah, when you go to a Muay Thai and K1 venue, about 70% of the venues are former fighters.
I think that's the difference. I think when you go to a boxing event, like you said, you get maybe 10% that are fighters. Well, maybe more than that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a smaller percentage that are actual fighters and a lot of donuts in the crowd.
Those donuts have a couple of drinks and
that's
they think they're fighters.
And now they think they're part of the firm, and that's what it is. I don't think I've ever been to a pro boxing, amateur I have, but I don't think I've ever been to a pro boxing event and not kick off in the crowd somewhere. Or it's the sort of thing, people used to joke and say, don't take your missus to this one, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's the sort of thing, it's a different vibe, isn't it? When you go to, I've never been to kickboxing events. Oh, I have, but not many. Whereas I've been to more sort of MMA and boxing. MMA is a bit different as you step up the levels. If you go to a UFC fight event, it's a bit more sort of educated, isn't it? Yeah. But we've all been at them venues, I'm sure, where it's like, you know, you're in a sort of a working man's environment, and you know, there's people that are watching the fights, and like you said, 6 whiskeys deep. It's like, okay, I could do that. I mean, why didn't he just chin him and all that nonsense?
Jump in the ring and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But tell us about your training and stuff, mate, because I don't know if you can see my legs. I look like a victim of domestic abuse. Shout out to Daniel Terry Fight Team for having me. Very grateful to jump in with the boys. I won't mention names because they bashed me up, but there you go. When you're training now, like what's a typical week of training look like?
This year's been very interesting for me. So my last fight was actually in September. It was for the UK #1 spot actually against Dean Patterson. I lost that fight unfortunately, and then about a month after or two, so November time, I actually got a perforated eardrum in my ear.
That's fun, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was off training and work for a bit because I was just all over the place. I thought it was just built up wax, but then it was getting worse and worse. What's going on? After like 3 GP appointments, they found out, your eardrum's burst, mate. I literally
took the third appointment, did it?
Yeah, third appointment, right? So I was off, and then I went to like ENT. It was like mid-January, February. I got an appointment with them, and I just said, can I go back to training and stuff? And then shout out to the guy. He was a bit like, just be careful. Like that sort of thing. Like,
I didn't tell you nothing.
I didn't say, it's just like yes and no sort of thing. Yeah. So I was just slowly training back and stuff. But then I was talking to Dave about, fights and stuff. Thing is, potentially now, where it's sort of been off, maybe end of the year. So what I've just been doing now, it's been really nice. I won't lie to you. I've just kind of been going at my own pace, where for the last 6-7 years, I've just been doing work training. Not even been focused on myself. So now, which is very funny, I've been training like maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and yet I done my 5 mile the other day, personal record. Next week, it's like week after week I'm getting faster, S&C sessions getting stronger. I don't know, the secret is not a strict diet and training less, but then maybe, like people say, it's because your body's having a rest.
Yeah.
Where you're not training every single day or twice a day, you're training 2-3 times a week, you're getting that rest, eating, like, when I mean not diet, I'm not eating like shit crazy, you know what I mean? I'm just like moderate. Like if I want to treat myself to a cheek or something, I'll do it, you know what I mean? But like not crazy, so just relax. Maybe because not having the pressure of a fight coming up, getting faster runs, getting stronger, performing better. I don't know, maybe, but
that's interesting. I think there's something to that, and the mindset of stress. Like, everyone knows what it's like to sport. When you got a fight coming up, it's fucking stressful, isn't it? Every moment of the day is a fucking pain in the ass. Everyone annoys you and things like that. So I do think there's an element of that. But just stepping back briefly, like with the perforated ear, what's the situation with that? Is that just a rest off thing?
As of last month, I had a hearing test, and it gave back, and they said it's quite funny. My other ear actually was the worried one, not the perforated one.
But what do you do with perforated eardrum? Is that just rest?
Unfortunately, it just heals. It could take weeks, it could take months, and it took months for mine to heal.
Right.
Yeah, it's very common, but not common. Because I spoke to my coach about it. I think he had it once as well. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it does happen, believe it or not. But it just heals, and if it doesn't, apparently you do need surgery where they like put stuff down there. It happened to my uncle as well. So.
Oh mate, yeah. It is funny, isn't it? Like I've not had not that I know of, I've not had a perforated eardrum, but I got rocked in the ear once when I was about 18. And it, like every time I turned, I was getting like a. And you know, one of the things that just drives you mad, like you couldn't sleep properly, and you're 18, so you kind of get on with it, and it goes away eventually, right? But it's a motherfucker was the point I made. But like, if you're in sort of a camp, like where before you've got like a perforated eardrum, and you've got to fight there. What's a week of training look like for you?
Oh, so from the fight camp and stuff.
Yeah.
So for my work, it's a bit annoying. I work 1 week early, 1 week late.
What do you do? What's work?
So I work in McLaren.
Okay.
So I work in the production team. I'm a reworker down there.
I mean, I keep this in mind when they're giving out sponsors and that, weren't you, for the podcast? Like, because, you know, McLaren can jump on board if they want.
Oh, I love that. But yeah, so we work 1 week early, 1 week late. That may potentially change to one shift now, which would really help my training. So the problem with that was when I'm on my early weeks, it's great. I start at 5:30 in the morning and finish at 1:45 in the afternoon. It means I could train in the evening stuff. Whereas on my late weeks, I'd start at 3 p.m. and finish at 11:15 at night, which means I can't do evening classes. But luckily, my coach here, we've got midday classes, as you can see now.
Yeah, it's going on now.
I mean, they're PT, but we've got midday class at 12. So that really helps. So on early weeks, I'd wake up in the morning, as everyone would see my Insta, about 3:45, I'd do my push-ups, my squats, and my sit-ups, just as my sort of wake-up morning routine and a bit of stretch. But everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're insane. How could you do that before you start work? It just makes me feel better, you know, just to get warm already. Do work, sometimes go for a little nap, and then I'll go for a run before training, and then do 2 hours down here, and then go back to bed, because obviously I've got to be up at stupid o'clock.
Right.
And then Saturdays is usually like my peak day, like I'll do like a session, then sparring, or run before sparring, then sparring. And then Sundays, hit and miss. Sometimes it's a rest day, sometimes it's a training day.
Yeah, so it's full on, it's hardcore. Like, I believe you fight a super middleweight, right?
I fight super middleweight.
So, yeah.
I fought at 80 before, I fought at 75 before, I fought at 77 before. Yeah, so between
What is super middleweight in K1? Is it the same as boxing?
So
76, yeah.
3, I think. Yeah, 76.
So 168 pounds, yeah. And how tall are you?
I am 6'3".
Yeah, I was going to say, you're taller.
Very
you're
tall
definitely,
for that
definitely, I claim to be 6'4" when that's on, but you're definitely taller than me. So if you go like through a fight camp, is weight making an issue for you, or do you make it quite comfortable?
I'm quite...
Or is it a secret?
George is not here, so she always goes on about, like, because of my build. I don't superly struggle to weight cut, because I'm naturally quite a lean person. I don't really carry fat on.
You look like a super middleweight to me. Do you know what I mean?
I don't majorly cut. My walk around's in like the low 80s already. So like,
oh, that's easy.
So for me, I kind of just, I just naturally fall down. You know, so weight cuts have never been a massive issue for me, and. You know, I've never thought, I mean, I know people say you should water cut and stuff like that. I mean, if I have to, I have to, but I've always kind of just done it the sort of natural way, you know, because I don't want to have that sort of, you know, the next day rehydration and then feeling like shit the next day, you know?
I've always thought that there's an element of getting in there feeling good. If you're fighting someone who's a bit bigger, it is what it is, but you're going to be tall anyway, do you know what I mean?
Everyone's always bigger than, I mean, most of the time they're usually bigger than me.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, and thicker, should I say.
Yeah.
Big and fighting is usually tall, isn't it? Yeah, because I'm technically the bigger fighter, obviously, but it depends on mass and stuff. You know, usually I'm up against the short and really stocky people, aren't I? You know?
But you're also very lean and in shape. Like some people, they'll go away from camp and they might be fighting the same weight as you, and they've got to cut a lot of weight. But sometimes that's discipline too, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? A lot of people say, like, I know people that I box with, I won't mention names for obvious reasons, but they're similar sort of size to me, but their walk around weight was
double.
Do you know what I mean? A lot bigger than me, because they're just like, they're going down McDonald's at the weekend eating 7 Snickers bars and all that business. Whereas like, to me, if you're fight weight, you're never going to be fight weight year round, but if you're close, it's got to be the better way, innit? Do you know what I mean?
That's what I was saying about diet. You know, as though I've been having I call it time off. I'm still training like 3 times a week or so, but like I'm still eating clean. I'm eating whatever, but I'm not going crazy because, like I said, I always like being ready. I mean, as these guys know, I've taken fights on 2 days' notice.
Right.
I've taken a fight on weeks' notice. I've taken a fight on 3 days' notice. That proves that I am someone that is always sort of ready, you know. I'm always tempted. That's why people say, there's a fight this weekend. Oh, Aaron, that's your weight class, isn't it? But I'm always fight ready, and always, as a fighter, you should always be somewhat relatively close. Obviously, you've got, you don't want to be, some fighters are always going to be a bit higher and stuff like that. But like, you want to be sort of somewhat fit,
You should be, otherwise this life maybe ain't for you, right? If you're one of them people that needs 3 months off to go and party in Thailand and do, you're not going to go as far. You might go far. I shouldn't say you're not going to go far. You're not going to go as far as you could, though, right? Because this should be a year-round. I mean, any kind of combat to me should be a year-round sport, shouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? You've got to be ready all the time. But like, take us through how many fights you've had, mate, and what your achievements so far.
So I always lose count of my fights. I haven't had a huge. So I've had in total, about 15 fights, and my last 2 were pro. So I only gone pro last year. So last year was a very good year. I'll probably go on about my last year. So last year was good.
Before the year.
Yeah. So I won the British title last year at the Muay Thai Grand Prix.
As a pro?
Yeah. So
already?
That was my pro debut.
Oh, wow.
That was my pro debut.
Big deal then.
That was against Jacob Wells.
Okay. I've had on shout out Jacob. I didn't realise that. Nice.
Yeah. And then after that, I took I went on my first holiday actually in 6 years. Because like I said, I've just been work training. So I went on holiday, went to Dubai, loved it. And about a week after I came back from Dubai, and this is what I mean about being disciplined. And it's quite funny, someone messaged me like a randomer saying, oh, you got a fight coming up, why are you partying? I'm just like, mate, I've been training for the last 6 years of my life. I'm just taking a couple of days, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because I had the Dean Patterson fight lined up for September. And obviously I booked this Dubai trip before that, which I already moved for the Jacob fight. Because I was meant to go in June, but then the Jacob fight came and I moved it to August. So I'm like, I'm keep moving this holiday. So I thought, you know what, let me get some pleasure for once. Went on holiday for a couple of days. A week after I came back, they just said, do you fancy fighting this weekend? Like, this is a Wednesday. He said, do you fancy fighting this Saturday? And I was like, yeah, why not?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, one as well.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. And then I also had a fight a month after that against Dean Patterson.
That's
so
interesting.
That was a very good year. So 3 out of 4. I had 4 fights. I won 3 and I lost the last one at the end of the year.
But I'll tell you what's interesting with that sort of free mindset, if you like. Whereas, if you're training year round, sometimes there's an element in fighters that I think we've all been guilty of at a certain point where it's like, you sort of set your clock to, I've got to train hard all the time. Whereas, of course, you've got to train hard. But I don't think the priority should be, priority number 1 is to train hard. Your priority's got to be your best when you get in there, innit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And as I say, don't get me wrong, you've got to train hard to do that. But there's an element of relaxed mindset can carry you through as well, isn't there? And if you're training year round, how many fighters have jumped in on short notice? Michael Bisping in the UFC comes to mind. Trained his whole life. He got a fight on 11 days notice and won a world title. The reality is he didn't get it on 11 days notice. He did, but he's been training his entire
whole life.
Exactly. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when you've got that kind of stress off as well, because I mean, it's an amateur boxing fight I'm talking about that I had one. It's a little bit different, but like I walked in the gym on a Sunday morning, my coach went to me, what are you doing tomorrow night? And I gave him the, well, I'll probably be here. No, you're fucking not. You're fighting. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I weren't stressing about it for weeks, was I? Do you know what I mean? And you just go in there and be free. Now, I understand it's a 3-round amateur bout and it's a bit different, like whatever. But
less pressure, though.
The mindset's the same, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You're still stressed out.
It is.
I mean, for anyone, I mean, not that I've ever fought for a world title, but if you're in a change room fighting for a world title, you're having your first amateur bout, you're still stressed out, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? I know there's levels to it of stressed out, but you're still fucking...
It's still stressed.
It's still the same thing.
Exactly, actually your first ever amateur going to a world title. Yeah. That stress is always just going to be, you know.
Absolutely. And like with K1, what's the situation with that? Is that sort of a, I don't mean legit career, like it's not legit, but is that something you can sort of give up work with eventually and be a full-time pro?
That's the thing about sports, and obviously this is why I work, because with fighting, you never... If you do fighting hoping to make money, I wouldn't count on it. If you love it, then do it. Yeah. You know, if you love it, then do it. If you're solely just doing it for a money case, well, you're not gonna last. You know what I mean? No. But if you love it, as I always say, things may work out, things may not. But if you're doing it because you generally love it and have the interest for it, then that's fine. You know. But again, it all depends on promotions and stuff, etc. But it's getting to a more popular sport. You know what I mean? So it is growing. So
and social media, like,
social
is
media,
a big part of that, isn't it? You know, it's how we got in touch, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you sell yourself very well, you know, that can happen, you know.
Absolutely.
But obviously, you always need. I'm not being negative, but you always do need a plan B and everything, you know. Because the thing is about fighting, it's not forever, you know. But that's why I'm kind of making the most of it now. As I did say, I'm 31, but I do still consider myself young. You know what I mean? I'm not like 51.
No.
You know what I mean? So,
but I think it depends on the lifestyle you live, right? 31, like I'm 34, like I feel great. I feel like I ever did when I was 25 because I train all the time, don't drink, don't do that. And this is not me being a preacher and like trying to pat myself on the back, but that goes a long way, I think, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like when if you live the life and you look after your body, I'm not talking about being a monk. I'm just talking about if you're fit all the time, you look after your injuries, all that kind of nice stuff. When you get perforated eardrum when it comes, like. 31, 34 ain't old, is it? Do you know what I mean? And I think
you might not even have your man strength yet. Some people get their man strength like 35.
Yeah. Well, there's the term old man strength, isn't there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and like,
exactly.
I was rolling with a guy today who's 50, I believe he's 57. I won't mention his name because I might be butchering how old he is. But he's a monster. He's a freak. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And he's looked after himself. He lives the life, and it is what it is. He might be 54. That's why I'm not mentioning his name, but you know who you are. He's a monster. But listen. Mindset comes into that too. How many people I've spoke to whilst doing this podcast as well, actually, that are sort of getting into their early 30s, that are younger than me, and they're going, you know, I'm getting a bit older and whatever. Like, whoa, none of that.
You're setting yourself with defeat by doing that, though. That's the thing. You're setting yourself to defeat. Like, I mentally still feel about 24 because that was the last time I had a holiday before I went to Dubai. Afterwards, I was just training, working. We've always sort of preached as a fighter, you know, give up everything and stuff, because, you know, even my family would be like, oh, we never see you at family gatherings. Oh my gosh, like, I feel like I don't see you anymore and stuff. And it's kind of sad because obviously, like, my cousins and my sister, we've got little ones now and stuff, and they don't see me as much because they just know, oh yeah, he's always fighting and training all the time, you know. And it's the harsh reality, but at the same time, I realise now, no, like, maybe I should make the effort. You know, I'm always training. If it is here and now and then, just for family. Because it's family. I'm not on about going like, oh, like getting pissed every single weekend and all that sort of thing like that. But, you know, I realise now I do need to make the time and effort with family, you know.
But it's also a selfish sport, isn't it? If
it is a very
you can get kicked in the fucking head. Yeah. You know what I mean? It is what it is, isn't it? We're not talking about going out till 3 a.m, sitting at a barbecue. It's a bit different, isn't it? But like, at the same time, you still got to be aware of that. If that barbecue happens to be on a Sunday and your body's in pieces and you need that rest day ahead of Monday, hey, listen, you got to do what you got to do, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day.
And again, that barbecue doesn't necessarily mean having like 70 pints. You know what I mean?
Right. You got to be the uncle sitting in the corner. You're like, leave me alone.
Yeah, you know. But it's just being there, you know. Yeah. And also as well, it's quite funny with fighters when they say you got to be disciplined and stuff. But when you go to shows, you need people to come to shows. You need to obviously like sell tickets and stuff like that. So you need to still get involved with your fans, should I say, whether that's your friends and family, because. This is why I feel like can I say dickhead? Yeah.
Say whatever you like, mate. Yeah.
This is why I feel like a dickhead sometimes, where like people ask to meet up, I'm sorry, I'm training. Then all of a sudden, oh hey mate, can you come to my fight? I know I've just turned down every time you've asked me to come and meet up or come around and chill, but oh, can you come to my fight? Also, it could have cost 50 quid, and also it's all the way up in like, you know, the north, like mid England or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? I feel like
But it is what it is at the end of the day, innit? Do you know what I mean? Like, you'll find out who your real mates are for that, won't they?
Yeah,
you know
that's exactly the point. The real mates. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed with people as well, which is hard, is like, you know, when people, if you turn pro, a lot of your mates will come to that. They'll go to the back arse of nowhere to watch your pro fight. It's the one after that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, a bit tight this month, mate. Oh, Mrs. wants to go away on holiday. Oh, you know. And that's when the excuses start to come in. They'll come to the first one. They'll come to the title fights. They won't come to the Tuesday night in Barnsley.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It is what it is, isn't it? But like, with your age now, 31, still young, I believe.
I don't feel old.
No, but how long do you see yourself doing in this? Is this just...
I would love to still see myself doing another 5 years. Because I feel like that's a good... like, you know, 31. Oh yeah, 31 now, because I was thinking 35. Yeah, so 35, 36, see where I am there, because I might get to that stage, you know what, actually, maybe turning stage now, or actually, no, I'm still going strong.
That's the thing, I think a lot of people get to that age, don't they, and go, I'm great, I'm brand new, I'll still do it. But have you got like achievements in mind? Because you fought Jacob Wells, you said, right? Jacob Wells has been a world champion, do you know what I mean?
So what's quite funny, I always said this, right, I could happily die if I get a belt.
Yep.
Which I've done now. Uh-huh. So now it's like, okay, on to the next one. So I'm going step by step. as of today, I would say I would happily love a European title.
Right.
Say theoretically that happens. Then I could say, oh, you know what? I would love a world title.
Right, of course you would.
So, yeah, as of now, I would be happy with that. That would be more than happy, you know?
It's interesting, because like as I say, Jacob Well's been a world champion, right? And did you fight him in your pro debut?
I did.
Which is mad in itself, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because Jacob
it was a very big fight.
Yeah, well, Jacob's fought a guy called Ruben Barella. I don't know if you know who he is.
I fought him
Another
as well.
guy. Oh, you fought him as well?
That's why
you all fought each other. He's been
that's quite funny. That's like a fight triangle. So Jacob beat Ruben. Ruben beat me, I beat Jacob.
That's mental, isn't it? Yeah, it's funny how it
weird,
goes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird how that is such a, and it's such a mix of style between the three of us, you know.
In terms of body type as well, isn't it? Because like you were talking about before, Jacob's, I'm not saying he's short, but he's a lot shorter than you, and he's thick build and
very
stuff.
Stocky,
I remember, because that was one of the things he said. I think he said that was one of the jokes when he started. He said how he was strong and like they used to call him the dummy or whatever. Jacob, if I'm butchering that, mate, you comment below and let me know. But he was saying like they used to, he used to come in and take his licks because he was like a thick, short, stocky kid and whatnot, and obviously gone on to be a world champion. And like we know a million world champions that are more built like you, so I guess it don't really matter how you're built.
Fighting, it doesn't matter about build, doesn't it? If you can hit someone hard and you put them to sleep, you know, that's all what matters, right?
There's never been an answer to whacking someone on the chin, putting them to sleep. At the end of the
day, you are the shortest in your weight class. If you've got that power, it doesn't matter.
Well, I tell you
what's
I tell you what's interesting. What comes into it with the height. Because obviously, like when I used to box, I was a bit on the shorter side too. But kicking changes things a bit, doesn't it? Like when someone's throwing kicks at your head and then going to the leg, going to the head, going to the leg, do you find you got an advantage more so with the kicks?
Especially with a Taekwondo background. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, so I came into this sport with the flicky background. So now a lot of people say, "Oh, spinning kicks don't work." Nah.
Fucking do if they land.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, we don't want that spinning stuff, but the spinning stuff is what got me where I am. You know,
of course, yeah.
But throw up the spinning stuff. Work on the hands, and that's why I done the boxing fights, because I wanted to get that confidence of using my hands more. Because I got very long arms. Setting up my kicks on my arms work, and my jab's probably my most dominant favourite weapon. Out of all the spinning 360 tornadoes, just doing a fight like crazy, all these windmill kicks. My jab's probably the most. Yeah, that's my favourite one.
But it's almost like you got to be good enough to be able to implement the spinning shit, right? Because if all you've got spinning stuff, you're probably going to get bashed up, right? But then at the same time, if you can do all that spinning stuff, but like you
plus
said,
the normal,
plus just meat and potatoes work that opens them doors. Like obviously Michael Venom Page is the one that comes to mind in the UFC, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Like if he's throwing spinning shit, he's earned the right to throw it, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? And if you open them doors, how many times you've seen the knockout with Terry Ettim and Edson Barbosa? You know what I'm talking about? The wheel kick.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me it don't work?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying? Have you landed a wheel kick in a fight?
Not of a KO, unfortunately. I've landed it a few times. No, I've landed it only once, actually, flush. I remember I think this was my second fight, and I hesitated because I was like, oh yes, I've done it, but my coach was a bit like, no, you should have kept going for him and stuff. But I've landed it before in another fight, actually. Again, not a KO, but
well, when you KO someone with a wheel kick, we get episode 2 in and we sit back down and I'll take credit for like putting it in your brain.
But it may happen. Yeah. It may happen.
That's good, man. But like with now, do you like travel around? Are you obviously this is your home gym? Are you one of these?
I do travel
to Holland and all that business?
So luckily, like my coach Dave Zalowski, he's very sound. Like there's other coaches. I've trained at other gyms as well where they're not keen on you fighting. I won't even say their names of the gym, but yeah, they're not keen on you fighting in other gyms and stuff. They want you to just sort of be here, and when they teach you, they want you to be to your set style. Whereas Dave, luckily, he lets me do the style I do and work around with him. His belief is, work with what you got rather than sort of throw away what you got and build you into something you maybe not be. But yeah, he lets me train at other gyms. So sometimes I go at Combat Academy in the weekends for sparring.
Nice.
That's by Kent Way.
Okay.
And then Thursday I go to Crash Combat sometimes, which is in Dorking. That was with Steve Elliott, who used to train with Extreme Fighters, who's trained with Dave as well. We used to all be in one gym. So they sometimes come down here, we sometimes go down to them. And then, like I said, I sometimes go to my boxing gym as well. So yeah, I'm very open. I've got other places to train, and it's good because it gets me experience training with different sizes. Especially with boxing, different sizes, tall, short, stocky, getting that pressure where I might not necessarily get someone good as hands in a K1 fight. You know, a boxer, obviously, their boxing hands can be better, you know. So.
But when you said short, you looked at me then, do you know what I'm saying? Are we going to have an issue here?
Short stuff you doing, man. Come on, you know how it goes. You chasing me and I'm using my range.
When you said stocky, you went short. All right, mate, okay, fair enough, never mind. No, but at the end of the day, that's how it should be, isn't it? I think you should be able to travel around and stuff, because like that mentality of, oh, you're my fighter, you can't train at other place, that shit's got to die out, innit? Do you know what I mean?
How are you going to evolve?
Exactly.
Because you're training with the same people every time, who's eventually going to know, obviously, your weaknesses and your strengths. But when you go to another gym fighting fresh people, I've had it before where, well, my complicated style, where like literally, people can't read me. I'm like, great, because they've never fought with me before. And then vice versa, I might fight someone and think, oh, damn, like, I can't figure this guy out, you know? And then the more go to that place, you kind of figure them out. And before you know it, your fight IQ's slowly growing, you know?
Exactly. And I think the moment you stop growing is time probably to start playing that I'm old card and jacking it in, innit? Do you know what I mean? Because I think interest comes into that with people. You know, like when you get to a certain point where you don't learn anymore. I do think from sort of being around people that get to that sort of age, and age, I don't mean a set age, I mean that sort of time where you can feel that they're starting to not want to train anymore.
Yeah.
It comes down to interest a lot of the time, more than just a physical thing. We all know fighters also that are in their 50s that have got a bad this, bad that, broken, can barely get out of the car to get to train, but still want to do it. But
exactly.
I think they're more the exception nowadays, aren't they? Nowadays it does seem to come down to an interest thing when people start to slow off, but you're obviously nowhere near
I'm getting
that.
stronger and I'm training less.
Right.
But again, maybe because I don't have that pressure of, oh, I've got a fight coming up, I've got to be perfect and all this sort of thing. Right. But yeah, I'm getting stronger and fitter than I was when I was like 25. This is where I'm coming from. So I remember when I was 25, someone said to me, because I was overtraining, I was like, my back and stuff. He said, oh, how old are you, mate? I said, I'm 25. You're at that age now, mate. Yeah, trust me. Yeah, I couldn't believe that, and I believed it. Yeah. I thought, shit, maybe I am. Maybe like I'm just getting too old for this. I could not believe I thought that at that time.
Yeah, of course.
And look at me now, like I said, older, but stronger and fitter.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's interesting, I think it's got to go in waves, isn't it? Because you can't just train 2 or 3 times a week all the time if you've got a fight coming.
Exactly.
You can't.
No.
But at the same time, you can't train twice a day, 6 days a week, your whole life round. You can, but you can't treat your body like a stock car, can you? And smash it up twice a day all the time. Because after sort of, from my experience, and people are different, but from my personal experience, after the sort of 6 to 8 week mark is when I start to feel like I need to sort of ease back a bit. But at the same time, I do like to train a lot, even if I'm sort of in a down phase. And like, I'm not got any fights coming up or anything now, so I'm in a down phase all the time. But
you
like,
have to, it just keeps you active.
But I find, obviously that's the skill acquisition period too, innit? But at the same time, I feel like I can train more because, again, there's no stress with it. You're just turning up and you're flowing and you're happy to sort of take bad positions.
Learning
you're happy
techniques,
to... Exactly. Do you know what I mean?
You can't do that in a camp.
No.
You can't be... you technically camp's just refreshing, refreshing what you got. You can't
sharpening your tools.
Experiment on new stuff, strictly speaking. Whereas in this time, I can experiment stuff in sparring. I can do stuff like, oh, you know what, I don't do this quite a lot, let me do this more, you know?
Yeah.
I always do that in my sparring. Even in the camp, sparring for me, I always experiment. And then when it comes to the real fight, I do what I do best. Yeah. You know.
Well, I mean, it's obviously working in it. You're fighting against. Was it your pro debut against a former world champion and winning? Yeah. Like, hey, proof's in the pudding there, isn't it? But mate, this has been brilliant. I really appreciate you. Before we finish up here, I was asked the most important question. I don't know if you've seen any of these, but you're from a good part of the world, so you might give me a good answer here. Which football team do you support?
None.
Chelsea. Well done. Very good. Thanks for coming. Same bad joke every episode. But there you go. All right, mate. I appreciate you. I always finish with a fist up like this, mate. Join me. Squeeze the neck. Boom.